What is Tonelico? Well, it's juvenile, horny, thrifty, cringy, problematic, very problematic.
No, we can't do this.
And it's honestly one of my most treasured possessions. For years, this video has been sitting in a corner of my mind just waiting to be let out, and now that Tonelico's hit a milestone anniversary, I figured it's the perfect time for a revisit and see if it still holds some of the magic that it did for me 20 years ago. And it was a roller coaster ride.
Liner.
Whoa. Whoa!
A warning to you fine folks who clicked on this video. I want you to know what you're getting yourselves into. What you're about to watch is going to be a little heavy, a little horny, and full of heart. Because if you're anything like me, once you've experienced Tonelico, you'll never forget it. The year was 2007, and this beautiful black sequel to the PlayStation was still going strong. God of War 2 was pushing the hardware's limits, Persona 3's evokers were cautioning parents to double-check the locks on their gun cabinets, and High School Musical Sing It was the 5th best-selling PS2 game in the UK. Behind the scenes, Nippon Ichi Software America was busy localizing a new IP to release in the States. Tonelico, the girl who keeps singing at the end of the world, to use its overly long Japanese subtitle, was developed by Gust, the folks behind the alchemy-focused Atelier series, which frankly has more entries than I care to count. Tonelico Melody of Alemia would hit American shores after a 3-month delay in February of 2007, with a surprisingly premium boxed release for a new and unproven IP. Inside you get the game and a nice little hardcover art book that covers the world's history and lore. And let me tell you, this lore goes deep. It is far more expansive and detailed than the fairly basic in-game explanations. Like, this is downright nutty. With this amount of lore, it'd be a shame if it had only been utilized in-game. I mean, hell, it even has its own alphabet for the Hymnos language, with capital and lowercase letters. Which is why, with the help of Band Presto, Tonelico's scope grew into an expanded multimedia project. It got an anime OVA, which, you know, it's not great, but you can watch it on YouTube. There's also manga, a bunch of drama CDs, and the best part, musical albums. We'll get to that later. To this day, I still don't know what it was about this game that drew me to it. I remember walking into the store with $40 in birthday money, ready to walk out with a stack of cheap pre-owned PS2 games to enjoy. But then I saw this brand new large pink box and I was intrigued. Maybe it's because I was a NIS fan, or maybe it was the unique title or the really good character art, or maybe I just needed to know what "you never forget your first" on the back of the box meant. What the f does that mean? Yeah, you guessed it, it's in a romantic context. Like most JRPGs, there is a world-ending threat to deal with, but primarily, Tonelico is about two things: music and relationships. With some seriously damaged girls.
I need you to stay with me. I'll go crazy without you.
I'm in danger.
The game takes place in the sundered land of Sol Seal, which after 2 catastrophic past events has been reduced to nothing but a landmass called the Wings of Horus, and the titular tower itself, Tonelico.
That huge tower jutting out of the ground. That thick shaft that causes women to shudder.
The hyper-advanced technology of the tower is what keeps the landmass afloat and what gives Ravitales the power to craft magic. Not through tomes, wands, or staves, but through song. What are Ravitales? Well, it's not exactly made clear, at least not in-game. Are they robots, cyborgs, maybe androids? Who knows? All we know for sure is they're all female, they can craft powerful song magic through building a strong connection with a partner, they can be created from scratch or from union with humans, and they are all technically artificial life forms, which raises some serious questions about the nature of life if you think about it for longer than a few seconds, so I'm just gonna move on before I go down a rabbit hole. Seriously, this lore is bazonkers. The game begins with an abridged telling of how the land was ravaged by monsters called viruses, and how the mother virus was finally sealed away inside Tonelico by the holy singing maidens. A time of peace had finally come to this troubled land, but something has gone amiss, and the sealed away threat has begun to stir once again. I know it sounds generic. Just replace viruses with monsters and holy singing maidens with warriors of light, and there's your template for a JRPG. The opening is kept generic on purpose to downplay what actually happened. The full story is so much more interesting, and honestly, pretty heart-wrenching. The viruses start running amok in the holy city of Platina, where we're introduced to our headstrong main character, Liner, a knight with a propensity for rushing in where angels fear to tread, which, if you're unfamiliar with the adage, is what fools do.
Great. I've been waiting to take on an enemy like this.
A few moments later.
The dude has a good heart and a strong sense of duty. He's just kind of a nitwit.
Stupid.
He really is an idiot.
Voiced by Nolan North, though, so that's pretty cool.
What? Wait, why are you mad at me now?
We're also introduced to certified weeb Ayatane, voiced by Liam O'Brien of Gara fame. And he has purple lips, so you know he's not to be trusted.
I love that song. It hits me straight through the heart.
And Shiralia, administrator of the tower and commander of Platina's Knights. She's voiced by Paula Tiso, who's most known for her role as Lulu in Final Fantasy X.
Don't tell Waka about Yuna's lineage.
Whoa! I gotta tell Waka!
This makes her cheesy and stilted delivery as Shiralia here all the more fascinating.
Defend the feeble and defeat the evil. My happy song heralds the villain's demise when singing angel Shiralia arrives.
I'm getting too old for this shit. My suspicion is that she was directed to try and sound more robotic in an effort to make the reveal of her true nature more impactful later in the game. But the result is a lot of lines where her inflection just sounds weird.
Looking back, Mir played the organ more than I have.
That ain't great, but there's another character who's so much worse.
Now, all I gotta do is mount the shearing.
These new viruses are impervious to attacks, so Shiralia sends Liner on an airship down to the lower world to recover the Him Crystal Purger. He crash lands the ship, gets some help from a mysterious character before she runs off, and the game begins proper. And compared to the cold metal interiors of the tower, this first zone is absolutely delightful. I'm sure you've noticed by now that this looks a little too good for a PS2 game, and it's all thanks to a widescreen patch and a fan-made HD texture pack on PCSX2. Don't use the 1V-Rock pack, it's unfinished, as you'll see with some of this early footage. Use the Ice Bullet pack instead, which aside from just a few textures not loading in, it works great. I'll put a link to both the pack and a tutorial on how to use it in the description. I felt like it was important to get the game looking as good as possible so the character art and designs could really shine. Just look at Orica's and Shiralia's smiles. I would die for those smiles. They were provided by Nagi Ryo, who would continue as character designer for the rest of the trilogy. It's not so prevalent in the games, except for AT3, but we're not going there today. But one look at some of his supplemental works reveals that Nagi-san has some very particular tastes. Never full Satoshi Arushihara, if you know, you know, but definitely risque. That's the duality of our Tonelico, beautiful and awe-inspiring in one moment, titillating weeaboo bait in the next. For the rest of the party, there's Radolf, a good-natured cardinal of the church, Jack, the man with
A mechanical arm.
and Cruciate, a mechanic whose Dora the Explorer line delivery is excruciating.
Be careful. After we attack these guys, they can still recover.
These characters, including Ayatane, all get their brief time to shine in the story, but it's pretty minimal. Cruciate especially, I couldn't tell you why she sticks around half the time. Jack has to wrestle with ties to the Teru tribe, which he abandoned after disagreeing with their ways. And Radolf wants to help people instead of spending resources pursuing the resurrection of a goddess, as directed by his boss and suspiciously named Bishop False.
That's sketchy as f***.
But no, the bulk of the game's storytelling comes after the introduction of our two main Ravitail partners and love interests, Orica and Misha, which leads us to a fun segment that I like to call, God, I hope my family doesn't watch this video.
I'm going to keep you tied down like this. That way, you'll always be mine.
I'm in danger.
So, Misha, where do I even start?
I want to feel the wind.
Well, the biggest detail we need to get out of the way is that despite her 12-year-old appearance, she is 20. Now, before you call classic anime bullshit, which it is, the so-called Holy Maidens in the opening cutscene refers to Misha's bloodline, whose duty is to sing a hymnos called Chronicle Key to keep the mother virus sealed away. And they can never stop. It's a life of standing in a room and singing until your next, I guess, incarnation comes to relieve you. Now, this part of the story isn't explained very well, and close examination will reveal some plot holes, but basically a rogue member of the Tenba Corporation kidnapped Misha and did experiments on her to extract Chronicle Key, thereby releasing the mother virus and reverting Misha to her child form, for some reason. Now, it sounds dumb that a song could be removed from somebody, but keep in mind that Ravetales, Hymnos, and the Tower are all technology-based. Hymnos are basically lines of code that just happen to sound like heavenly hymns. Think of them as data that can be deleted. As for why said deletion causes Misha to de-age by 8 years, well, that's just Japan, baby. What's problematic is that Misha and Liner were childhood friends, which Liner doesn't remember because he's a meat-headed dimwit, but later. And Misha isn't gonna let a little thing like the perceived age gap stop her from coming on to him? This awkwardness reaches peak discomfort when you unlock the ability to install, which involves inserting Wrath Note crystals into the body of a Ravetale to power up their songs and give them special effects. This leads to thankfully unvoiced dialogue like, "I've heard that it hurts, please be gentle, use this, it doesn't hurt as much going in," and I'm not saying that. I've already given you guys enough sound bites to work with. Let's see here. Innuendo. Definition. See R. Tonelico. She's even voiced by Karen Strassman, which if any of you Persona 4 fans have been thinking that Misha sounds awfully familiar, it's because it's Karen doing her Nanako voice.
Every day's great at your Junas. All I wanted was for us to be together.
What?
Again, that's the duality of R. Tonelico. I actually really feel for Misha and the unfair expectations placed on her, and I would say that reverting to her child form was meant to be symbolic of her wish to avoid responsibility, but I think that might be giving this game a little too much credit.
That young
lady
fills me with hope, and some other emotions that are weird and deeply confusing.
There's just no escaping the fact that for half the game, her advances on Liner are just plain weird and distracting. And she's not the only problematic character. Cruce is 15, and Shiralia, who is a third romance option, is over 700, and she looks like this. It's more classic anime bullshit. And Jack has a literal child infatuated with him.
Where were you? I missed you so much! Pervert.
Misha does eventually get her adult body back, but don't worry, with a bit of backtracking, you are given the option to keep her as a child if you wish. Oh, God. Alright, look, I originally had nothing but fond memories of AT, but those 20-year-old memories definitely got a bit rusty. This revisit has forced me to take off the rose-colored glasses and say, yeah, some of this shit is disconcerting.
Poor Liner. You go out with so many underage girls, you can't remember them all.
Joke about it all you want, girl. It doesn't make it any less weird. Oh, and one last thing about Kid Misha. Her battle lines get old fast.
Now, let's sing. Leave it to me. Now, listen. Liner, you better back me up.
Now, Orica, on the other hand, is a much more down-to-earth character with down-to-earth problems. Also, might be a Popeye fan?
Open sesame.
I promise I'm almost done complaining about this. While I would have preferred that they added an extra year to her age on the status screen, it doesn't bother me so much with Orica since she can easily be perceived as a young adult. Misha, for half the game, is a child. Big difference. And let's keep it real, this is a video game. There's nothing wrong with pointing and saying, that's a little weird. Lord knows plenty of people did that with Persona 5, but in the end, it's ultimately harmless. Much like with their color schemes, Misha and Orica could not be more different. Misha is strong and confident, while Orica suffers from severe self-esteem issues and depression, which weakens her song magic and places her in the lowest rank of Ravetales. She serves the Alemia Church along with Radolf and is a devout believer in the trio of goddesses, said to one day return and save the world. Compared to Misha and her role as the star singer, Orica's pretty plain Jane, and that's part of why I like her so much. She has so much potential, but she lets doubt hold her back, something that Liner helps her to overcome.
You don't have to lie to me. My songs don't help anybody.
Don't act like this. You never got in my way.
While you do help Misha through her fear of responsibility, it doesn't amount to much since it still results in her going back to that room and singing Chronicle Key. With Orica, there is a noticeable growth in her character. She opens up, smiles more often, jokes around. She even indulges in her love of cooking up dubious recipes that should be vile but end up tasting great for some reason, like this barbecue soda. Just take some soda, slap a grilled meat on the rim, plop in a Graphnode crystal, and you've got an elixir that can revive your whole party. It's not the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. I've seen posts online saying that more attention was given to Orica as a romance option over Misha, and now that I've played through both paths in Phase 2, I'm inclined to agree. I tried sticking with Misha for this playthrough since I went with Orica 20 years ago, but then I reached the end of Phase 2 and I nearly hulked out on this game. It's finally revealed that Liner and Misha were close childhood friends, and that Liner just straight up forgot about her when she had to leave to fulfill her duty.
What? No!
This filled me with so much passionate nerd rage that I loaded a save from 7 hours earlier and went with Orica's path instead. And I'm glad I did because the payoff is so much better. There's a quick scene where you find her writing a letter, but she won't say who it's for. At the end of Phase 2, you find out that she's been returning to her destroyed home village and leaving the letters in her old house, in the hopes that somehow her parents are still alive and will find them. Orica's pretty great. Carrie Walgren did an excellent job giving her dialogue a soul. I laughed my butt off when I heard her impression of Don Leon, her stuffed animal and guardian of her cosmosphere. Basically a mind palace.
I'm sorry, you guys, but I have to. Ha ha!
And you've likely heard her before. She's voiced Starfire a few times, Tigress, like a million characters in children's shows, and Wonder Green?
Once again, you strike true, Christine Daae. My gun, my bell.
Oh, good God, that is amazing. But this is our Tonelico, where there's always room for awkwardness. Installing crystals in Ravitails has more purpose beyond just boosting their song magic. Due to Orica being born from a human father and Ravitail mother, she suffers from a disease that all half-bloods contract, called Tattoo-less syndrome. Every 3 months, she has to take a life-extending agent, or Dequility crystal, into her body or she'll die. A more painful process compared to regular installs. This results in...
I can take the pain, as long as it's Liner who gives it to me.
It is clear to me that the scene you are about to witness is supposed to be a moment of bonding and trust between these two characters. But that didn't keep me from laughing my ass off.
Can we do it in a place like this? It's so big!
Yes, I know. Insert it all the way.
I can't be sure that I won't hurt you.
I can take the pain.
Okay then, turn around.
Ouch! Push it all the way.
Satisfaction.
It's in all the way.
Let's talk about the world. There's not much of it left, but what is still here is pretty nice to look at. The HD texture pack does an amazing job at making these hand-drawn areas really pop, though not all areas are created equal. A lot of them are pretty boring with a lot of repeating textures. Makes me glad there's an easy-to-read map system. The towns, on the other hand, are filled to the brim with detail. They remind me of really good pre-rendered backgrounds from games like Final Fantasy VII and Legend of the Dragoon. If you have a fear of heights, then be prepared to feel some of these zones in your gut. The people of this world are quite literally living life on the edge. I guess when your home is in the sky, you learn to love the peril. Most JRPGs send you across the land. For a good portion of our Tonelico, you're sent up it. Nothing says classic JRPG like hoofing it up a giant tower. And no, you don't just climb it once. You go up and down on this thing more than an adult film actor. Unlike the Tower of Druaga, this tower is visually interesting. You get this stark juxtaposition between the overgrown ancient ruin aesthetic of the outdoors and the pristine, coldly lit interiors. Gravity seems to be more of a suggestion rather than a scientific constant in this universe. It doesn't make much sense to be running along these quantum-locked steps, but it does make for striking imagery. You will be backtracking a lot, often for transparently weak reasons just for the sake of padding. This is why we have a fast forward button on PCSX2. Oftentimes the enemies won't even be updated to be worth fighting on return visits. Good thing the flee button works every time, and be sure to keep a stock of Pikas on hand to clear the encounter bar. The one good thing about backtracking comes in Phase 3, when all of those locked doors that have been plaguing your journey can finally be accessed. This game goes from shit's locked to time to get me some treasure. There's even an optional side village in the Blast Line, where you get a bit of extra story with Cruchet and meet— God damn! That is a dragon man! Despite the complexity of the lore, the story itself isn't very complicated. It's simple, almost like a fairy tale. Phase 1, find a crystal to stop the bad guy. Phase 2, bad guy is still at large. Help Orica revive the goddess or help Misha get Chronicle Key back. Phase 3, shocking revelation about bad guy is revealed. Exterminate anyway or strive to help them. That's one of my favorite aspects of the story, how the main antagonist is slowly elevated from a nameless threat to a sympathetic character. The catharsis of finishing most JRPGs comes from putting an end to the big baddie, which AT gives you an option to do if you wish, but you're not going to feel good about it. Instead, the game challenges you to recognize the injustices done to the antagonist and become invested in saving them, which does unfortunately mean enduring one of the game's instances of being sent to wander around aimlessly looking for the person who has information you need. Game length padding at its worst. Also, Phase 2 is where the pacing just really slows down for a while. Orica's route sends you stumbling through these multicolored corridors in a specific order, and Misha's puts you through a ridiculous runaround just to open a door. It's nowhere near as egregious as the Smelly Herb questline from Digimon World 3, but it's pretty clear they were struggling to keep players invested here. At the very least, you would think that getting to choose which party to join in Phase 2 would give the game a little replay value, but surprisingly, both routes go through a lot of the same story beats. There's a part where your Ravatail gets pouty and leaves for a bit, only to be replaced by the other through sheer happenstance. There's also this scene where Liner gets into a fight and gets scolded for it. The only difference is in Orica's path, this amounts to nothing. In Misha's path, he later learns his lesson and stands around getting his shit rocked until the dudes leave, because it's in poor taste to beat up the disabled. Some of this writing definitely could have used a bit of bolstering before release. One of the worst examples is when the big bad takes over Shirelia's body and says she's gonna imprison Liner's dad higher up the tower, which is already a shallow and ultimately pointless attempt at creating tension, since the player should be invested in saving Shirelia anyway. But then you reach the guy and he's not being tortured or anything, he's not even locked up, he's just sitting there. Diabolical. The story is at its best when you're interacting with the Ravatails and helping them with their problems. But forget that, let's get down to the meat and potatoes of all JRPGs. The fightin'! This being the first game in the series, a lack of refinement was to be expected. Suffice to say, I don't think the combat is one of AT's most appealing features, though it does have some unique ideas.
Let this be the end.
Battles consist of a vanguard at the front protecting a Ravatail in the back. All this means is remembering to defend on the uncommon occasion that your Ravatail gets targeted by enemies. The only times I had one get knocked out was from my attention span decaying due to sheer repetition.
Oh, they got me!
Which I did get a stern talking to about later. Battles typically start with you choosing a song to start charging up. Songs will evolve and get stronger the longer you charge, but they will put a heavy strain on your MP at higher levels, especially early in the game. MP will quickly regen while not singing, so it's a simple matter of firing off a spell or canceling a buff so you can take a few seconds to breathe. Playing dress up with your Ravatail can mitigate the MP drain, make your songs charge faster, change how the harmonics gauge fills, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of these outfits wouldn't be out of place at an anime convention. You know, a school uniform, a shrine maiden, a teddy bear that looks like it has fangs because of Orca's hair, a couple bonus costumes from the Atelier series, to even a wedding dress and a bath towel. How many games have you played that let you do battle in a bath towel? Tonight we dine at Bath & Body Works. The harmonics gauge at the bottom represents how in sync your Vanguard is with a Ravitail, and the whole system is just kind of a mess. Vanguard attacks raise the blue gauge, and Song Magic raises the pink. Once they meet, your harmonics gauge goes up a level and the whole party becomes stronger. Songs will charge faster, and new attacks become available for the front line. And each level gives you better items after battle, but you have to use Song Magic to fill yet another gauge before the higher levels even become available. This isn't so much an issue during lengthy boss fights, but it can be difficult to get those rare items in regular fights since one blast of high-level Song Magic is usually enough to end it. This would force me to stand around skipping turns and using buff magic to slowly fill the gauge whenever I wanted the good stuff, which you do want for the crafting system. Yes, there's a crafting system. It's the Atelier devs. Did you expect any different? If that explanation sounded messy, it's because it's a mess. The sequel handled combat a lot better. Now, I wouldn't say the combat is too easy. There were a few sessions where I caught myself falling behind and needed to craft new gear and update my graph node crystals, which, I forgot to mention, can also be slotted into your equipment for massive buffs. A graph of the difficulty curve would look something like this, and I wouldn't even say the game ever gets truly difficult. It's more like flipping the pay attention switch in your brain every now and then. By far my hardest fight, and you're not even gonna believe this when I tell you, it was this random encounter with a group of high school girls near the end of the game. It felt like getting the shit kicked out of me by the cast from Two Heart.
I'll take you to Dreamland! Spirit Hurricane!
Build your characters right, maybe lean on an item use or two, and you can charge your Song Magic to ridiculously high damage numbers. It's a uniquely satisfying system that you rarely get to take advantage of outside of boss battles. This game will have you begging for one of these sparsely placed boss fights just so you can let loose and see what you can really do. Unfortunately, the battle system falls woefully short of its full potential. However, it does get one thing right. I'll be preaching plenty later about how Tonelico does music right, but it's worth noting here how it is especially generous with battle themes. You ever play Dragon Quest for 20 hours and get tired of hearing AT takes advantage of its three-phase structure by introducing a new battle theme for each to spice things up, including a bunch of boss themes. And I really like Valkyria. I don't care that it sounds like a magical girl theme. This track goes hard. This ain't your typical JRPG with fireballs and lightning bolts. Well, okay, there is a fireball, but this one is sentient.
Burning! Everyone is burning!
Song Magic is crafted from a Ravitail's psyche and emotions with help from a trusted partner.
It feels like the tower's inside me. Like having a huge hymn crystal inside me.
In universe, this should mean that each Ravitail has spells that are completely unique to them. But corners were cut and there is some crossover between characters, along with some fairly generic spells. But the fun ones are pretty entertaining. Misha seems particularly fond of blunt force trauma for some reason.
How about this?
On Orca's side, you get Undyne, whose jug of water slowly gets bigger with each level until... BOE, which I just don't even know. And the most terrible of all, Orica MK1.
A weapon to surpass Metal
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
Shiralia, as if her Cosmosphere wasn't already an indicator that she was shoehorned in as a playable character, we'll get to it. All of her song magic uses recycled assets from previous bosses and other characters. She gets one unique song, and even then it's still only if you do some backtracking to find a secret super boss and beat them 10 times. So, how do you help these techno-organic girls in cosplay learn new songs and gain new outfits? You whip out the therapy couch and help them through their problems by diving into their minds.
Schnipp, schnapp!
Allow me to pose a question to those of you with significant others. What if you could enter the mind of your beloved and experience everything that they truly feel? Their doubts, fears, desires, to the rawest of emotions like love, lust, and hatred, all laid completely bare with the only limitation being which level you're on. That is the Cosmosphere. It is a deeply intimate commitment and one that isn't permitted lightly. The Ravitail in question normally isn't aware of what happens inside her Cosmosphere, so they each have a mind guardian fashioned after an object that holds special meaning to them. Orica has Don Leon, voiced by Nis Regular and a regular on this channel at this point, Dave Wittenberg.
Scoundrel, how rude! You should give your name before requesting mine.
And Hama for Misha, voiced by the legendary Mona Marshall. If you haven't heard her before, then you must be living under a rock.
You may not have caused this mess in the first place, but now you're responsible for it.
Their duty is to prevent divers from getting too overzealous and to guide them through these strange and beautiful worlds. Because, to borrow a line from Q, it's not safe out here. It's wondrous.
With treasures to satiate desires both subtle and gross. But it's not for the timid.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
It's pretty simple. Just move to each node and spend dive points earned through battle to get through different scenarios. Cosmosphere sessions are the closest AT gets to a visual novel, and I'd be lying if I said every level was interesting. But the ones that are, really are.
What the hell?
Claire's being mean to you? I'll take care of this.
Like witnessing Orica's seriously messed up feelings about her best friend Claire, or Misha's fear that Liner won't like her anymore if she gets her adult body back, which I hope to God is insinuating their childhood friendship. But those issues are small potatoes compared to level 6 and beyond. You'll hear warnings that most human Ravitail partners never dive beyond level 5 because things just get way too crazy. You thought installing and Orica getting the life-extending agent were lewd scenes? That was all just innuendo. Level 6 of the Cosmosphere throws innuendo out the window.
No, we can't do this.
Why not? Do you like someone else? Is that it?
Orica's is even worse since her level 6 ends without a proper resolution, meaning it comes back in level 8 and hits like a brick to the teeth.
We'll go into the magma, and then we'll melt together. We'll know that we're going to be together forever.
Haha, I'm in danger! All jokes aside, Carrie Walgren's an amazing voice actor. And what a good sport, too. A lesser VA would never give 110% with dialogue like this.
I love you enough to die for you. I love you so much I'd kill for you. I love you so much. Oh, I can't even express it to you.
The Cosmosphere offers some of the most compelling interactions I've ever had with a party member. It creates this incredible dynamic for the player where they know exactly how a character really feels despite how they may behave. At the start of Phase 2, you have to choose which party to join for a while. Misha will put on a smile and gently ask Liner to join her.
I can't force you, but I'd like you to come.
But if you've progressed far enough in her Cosmosphere, you know painfully well that picking Orica instead would be devastating for her.
Deep in her heart, she's afraid of losing you. That's how much you mean to her.
I guess you could say that's kind of a small issue with this system. You're encouraged to dive with both Ravitails to power them up, since there are a few points where you're forced to use a certain character in battle. I know it's just a game and all, but it felt just a bit unfaithful? Especially in level 10 where you partake in a mental marriage with your partner. The sequel did away with this discomfort by only letting you reach level 10 with one girl. The Cosmosphere is also where the game gets a little thrifty with its assets. You'll see characters like Liner's dad or the Bored Identity taking roles that don't really make sense. But it stands to reason those are characters that the Ravitail knows and could therefore just be mental placeholders. Sure, that's fine. Doesn't explain how Shiralia shows up in Orica's Cosmosphere wearing a sailor outfit, considering she hasn't met her yet at this point in the story.
Orica, there's a cat in my room. I believe it has strong draining capabilities.
Speaking of Shiralia, because she's not a standard Ravitail, her Cosmosphere is a bog-standard play on a magical girl romance adapted from an old program. And yeah, it's just as boring and cheesy as it sounds.
When I destroy the devil, I'll fall apart gracefully. Singing Angel Shiralia is here!
If you want to negate any and all tension in the story, take an hour to dive with Shiralia.
This is what you get for acting foolish next to my prison.
Also, the way new levels are unlocked wasn't exactly paced to be spread out over the course of a playthrough. They're unlocked through topics that pop up in the inn or camp areas. As long as you keep up on these topics, you can easily complete 3 or 4 levels in the Cosmosphere before it's time to get back to the story. You'll unlock costumes for Misha long before she's able to wear them. And there's even a funny accusation from Hama about Liner wanting to beat on Misha's drums, which on this rare occasion is not innuendo, but she doesn't have that hair accessory at this point in the story. It shows a lack of coordination between the Cosmosphere team and the folks making the rest of the game. But there's one thing they didn't mess up. The music for these segments is just beautiful. The deeper, more dangerous levels will alter the themes to sound tainted and off-kilter. But starting out, Misha's theme is uplifting and peaceful, while Orica's sounds more anxious and aloof. Remember, this is essentially the world of a young girl's heart, and the music plays an important role in portraying that. You know, I keep wanting to talk about the music. Maybe it's time I just got it all out. It's time for a part of the video that I've been looking forward to. Now, I said earlier that I don't know why I bought this game. Money was pretty tight growing up, so I was taking a risk. Obviously, it all worked out, and I can tell you the exact moment that I knew I had made a good purchase. It didn't take very long to reach it. I made a joke in my Lament of Innocence video about how it's an amazing soundtrack with a free game attached to it, and that same sentiment applies here. Without a shadow of a doubt, Tonelico's greatest strength is the soundtrack. It is powerful stuff. If you don't want to listen to me spoil, gush, and preach the reverence that this soundtrack deserves for the next 17 minutes, skip to this part of the video for a little checkpoint, and maybe I can convince you to stick around for the really good stuff. And if you just don't care about music, well, then Tonelico just isn't for you. The soundtrack can be split into 2 categories. You get your background music that plays about 95% of the time, and hymnos, songs with lyrics that play at key moments throughout the story. Hymnos are the highlights, as they're what make up the bulk of all the albums spawned from the series, but the rest of the OST is nothing to sneeze at. It was composed by 3 members of Gus' sound team, with the most notable being Tonelico's creator, Akira Tsuchiya. He based it off of a tabletop JRPG that he designed in college, but the original pitch was turned down, so he did some retooling and introduced Ravitails and Cosmospheres. He even created the Hymnos language. If this doesn't scream passion project to you, then you haven't been listening. It makes a lot of sense that a composer would create a game that's all about the magic and music. For a game where you're looking at static JPEGs a lot of the time, you need thoughtfully designed music to set the scene. The unique combination of folk and technological themes combined with lyrics every now and then accomplishes just that. It can be pleasantly mellow, it can be powerful and thought-provoking, It can pump you up. And sometimes the vocals will chime in to give a track an especially mystical feeling, like you're experiencing something larger than life. I didn't have a computer growing up, so I would ask my buddy to burn music CDs for me, which we lovingly referred to as the Pumping Mix series. You could only fit 80 minutes of music on these discs, but it was just enough for all the hymnos and a few tracks from the OST, and I made sure to add my favorite. Tonelico knows how to use music to amplify a scenario or imagery, most of the time. There's an important battle where instead of using the Purger hymnos again, which would have been perfectly fine since at most you only hear it twice in the game, but no, instead we get this. For a world where music with lyrics has a special focus and importance, this doesn't make much sense. And besides that, it doesn't really fit the scenario either. And there's another part where you have to traverse a giant brass horn, and, well, the track certainly captures that ear-piercing atmosphere. So, the OST, mostly hit, every once in a while, miss. And then you get the hymnos. These tracks are sung in a unique language sourced from English, Latin, Japanese, Sanskrit, and German. It's an unknowable language, giving every hymnos a mysterious feeling and leaving a great deal of it open to interpretation. Haruka Shimotsuki provided the vocals for Orica, and despite her being my favorite character, she's not really my favorite singer. Her in-game rendition of Purger is mixed in a way that makes her voice sound way louder than the music. Combine that with her sometimes harsh vocal range, and it's not the best. Linker, however, is an amazing track that filled me with these awful, horrible, conflicting feelings. Orica believes it's a hymnos that's meant to usher in the return of a holy goddess and save the world, but it's actually to allow the mother virus to take over her body, robbing her of her individuality. You learn the truth after being separated from her, and as she obliviously starts to sing a song that sounds at both times triumphant and sinister, I had just one panicked thought rushing through my head. I have to stop this. Renation is symbolic of breaking the cycle of sacrifice. It's a song that says to both Misha and Shiralia that it's okay. You don't have to suffer anymore. We're going to fix this world. Again, Shimotsuki's harsh vocals make it a bit of an uncomfortable listen at points, but when it starts winding down, it really hits. Providing Misha's vocals, we have one of my favorite singers, the absolutely legendary Akiko Shikata. Misha's role as star singer meant she had big shoes to fill, and Shikata-san easily fills them. Not only did she provide her unique vocals for the best tracks, but she even composed most of them herself. Her style involves recording songs multiple times using a range of varied vocals and then layering them over each other to create a truly unearthly sound. She also has incredible range, sounding youthful in one moment and, for lack of a better word, husky in the next. Considering Misha's adult-child duality, it made her the perfect candidate for her hymnos. There's just no question, her rendition of Perjure is way better than Orica's. It gives me chills every time I hear it. And since Misha is still in her child form at this point in the story, the song leans noticeably more into that vocal range. And then there's Chronicle Key. Much like Orica's Linker filling me with these conflicting feelings of beauty and panicked urgency, this breathtaking song is the architect of Misha's suffering. There's no hostility, no harsh notes, no urgency. It's a song of peace and heavenly purpose that should be enjoyed by all who hear it. But underneath that beauty, it's a symbol of Misha's sacrifice of her freedom, her crushing responsibility of giving her life to sing for a world that she barely knows. It's a bittersweet and truly powerful experience. You guys still with me? I know this is probably the most anybody's ever talked about a game's music in a YouTube vid, but you gotta understand, it's the part that left the biggest impression on me. I care deeply about it. So stay with me here because we're about to get to the really good stuff. Or skip to here, I guess. How could you? Let's step away from Akiko Shikata for a sec and shine some light on our other two singers, Yuko Ishibashi and Noriko Mitose. Ishibashi provided the vocals for Claire, and what's interesting to note is if you put her lyrics through a Japanese to English translator, you'll get a direct translation, revealing that these are not hymnos, they're just sung in Japanese. The only magic present in her singing is the power to soothe a weary heart. York of Love is good and all, but it's when you bring her a string to repair her lute that we hear Song of the Gentle Breeze, one of the game's most memorable scenes. It feels like time is standing still for the brief couple minutes that this song plays. All the strife and conflict in the world seemingly comes to a halt as the tavern fills with more listeners and we see panning shots of a land that, despite its sundered state, it's still beautiful. It's the power to bring peace, if only but for a moment. That's the magic of music. I only wish more people could appreciate it.
Music is energy, and you can never destroy energy. Einstein says that. It's part of us. It is part of all of us.
The most avid video game music enjoyers out there may recognize Noriko Mitose as the vocalist for Chrono Cross's ending theme, which now that I've listened to it, it is single-handedly responsible for making me want to revisit that game. She provided the vocals for 3 hymnos, 2 for Shiralia and 1 for the mother virus herself, Mir. First, Suspend. At the end of Phase 2, Mir, pushed to her limits, decides to stop holding back and wipe the world clean of both humans and Ravatails. This forces Shiralia to resort to suspend, shutting down the tower and lulling both herself and Mir into eternal sleep. It's yet another example of a beautiful song that also heralds a character's sacrifice, and it could very well be the last of your playthrough if you decide it to be, which would be the biggest mistake of your life. The world will be safe and you can have a happy ending with Orca or Misha, but you'd be leaving a certain character with an undeserved fate, and I'm not talking about Shiralia. The conditions behind the Mother Virus, or Mir's creation, and subsequent alterations by her creators left her robbed of the ability to love, all in an effort to make her a more efficient Ravatail. Let me put it like this. Imagine you wrote a song, one of the purest expressions of love, and had it not only rejected by the people you wrote it for, but removed from your very being because it didn't serve your designated purpose. Mir has every right to be pissed. Her hatred comes from a place that she can't control, and when Liner learns this in Phase 3, he becomes determined to help Mir gain back that part of her that was stolen. And the way they do this is by entering the final battle and having Misha sing the song that Mir created out of love and belief in humans before she was altered. And that song's name is Harmonious. It starts out soothing and calm, but Misha's gentle rendition is soon interjected by Mir's anger. The song goes through phases of Misha's wish for peace and Mir's hostility, like an angel and a demon partaking in a duet. It is a powerful backdrop for the final battle, and it's only after you manage to defeat her incarnation of hatred and break through her literal emotional barriers that the hymnos takes hold and returns to Mir the sensation of love that she had long since forgotten. Overwhelmed with emotion and without speaking a word, her heart swells and a new hymnos is born from her lips. Rig Veda. You guys see why I wear a mask? I thought for a long time about how I should handle Phantasmagoria, the final hymnos. And I came to the conclusion that on the off chance somebody watching this decides to actually play the game, I would have to be a real jerk to spoil that moment for them. Also, I just don't think I could put my thoughts on it into words. It's a literal gathering of the world's hopes and wishes for the future into one song, and it's such a beautiful celebration of life that the sheer weight and power of it left me reeling for days. I went out of my way to not listen to it for years because I knew eventually I was going to do this video. I wanted that moment to be special, like it was 20 years ago, and it was totally worth it. So that's my gift to you. The assurance that should you devote your time and finish our Tonelico, the ending will be worth it. And if you do, please come back and comment what you thought. I would love to know. Before we wrap up here, I'd like to offer some recommendations if any of the music that I just spent the last 17 minutes talking about resonated with you. Harmonia from Akiko Shikata has some great tracks, as well as her companion album to The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince, now on Steam. I, of course, recommend the OST and 2 Hymnos albums for our Tonelico, and I also highly recommend the same for the sequels. I don't like 2s as much, despite the song-powered orbital satellite cannon that never fails to induce hype, and AT3's Hymnos just might be the best in the trilogy, you know, as sleazy as that game was. There's something to be said about games coming to you at a certain time in your life. If you played A Bug's Life as a kid, then you probably remember it very fondly. Pick it up for the first time as an adult, and I doubt you'll appreciate it as much. Tonelico came to me during a time when I was big into anime and I had a lot of free time. It created the perfect environment for me to take it slow and really absorb what it was offering. Now today I would likely play it for a couple hours, call it weeb trash, and put it back on the shelf, throwing out the baby with the bathwater, as it were. You might call me a loser for saying it, and many people have, but games are important to me. They're what made me who I am today. That's why I'm grateful that I was fortunate enough to stumble on this special little game during a time when I would appreciate it most. I used to recommend AT at the drop of a hat whenever conversations about good video game soundtracks would come up. These days, I've added a however to that recommendation. With this game, you kinda have to lower your standards and up your tolerance for lacking gameplay, cringy dialogue, and some downright creepiness here and there.
Is it my body?
What? No, that's not it. I'm not a pervert.
If you can get past those issues, Tonelico's story, world, characters, and definitely music just might find a lasting home in your heart. I took a chance, and I was given a soundtrack that brought me joy, comfort, and wonderment for the past 20 years, and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. That is what priceless means. That is why this is one of my favorite games. I don't exactly enjoy playing it, but I love experiencing it. Just as I loved finally sharing my experience with you. Please leave a like if you like my style, and I'll see you next time. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a YouTube member for $2 a month. It helps me out a ton. Thanks for watching.